Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. Happy New Year. Hope you had yourself a good celebration if you wanted to do that. If not, let's just have a great 2022. Let's try and be positive in this kind of world crisis, pandemic, all that type of stuff. Let's just do the best that we can. Anyway, what I'm going to do in this video, I just wanted to go through and kind of reflect on the fusion and fragment events for 2021 Parade. Basically go through all of the different champions that were available to us for 2021 and give my view on, did they make an impact on the game? Are they still being used now? And give them a bit of a rating. So quite a fun video, cool to look back and kind of see, you know, where have these fusion and fragment events gone to in terms of champions. We hear a lot of chats, a lot of talk about they're generally getting weaker, they need more books, etc, etc. So, you know what? We can look at that. We can actually look, we've got all of the info, so we can give a proper response about actually how are these champions affecting the game from one month to the next. Interestingly, the thing which kind of spurred me into this video is I've just leveled up my Tatura on the free-to-play account. I've just run his masteries, so we've been running, you know, with all my energy, and I'm going to be doing a video on Tatura showing how he's going to dramatically change my free-to-play account. So that'll come in the next couple of days. But I was also reading through the article which Never from the HH Gaming team has written out around what's changed in 2021. I might do a separate video where I talk about the big features that have been added to Raid and whether I feel like they've landed, whether I feel like they've been the right things, and if not, what could they have done better. But within this article here, it kind of basically calls out the different champions that have dropped in 2021. We've got these 13 here, and then I'm also going to talk about the 2 champions that we got as freebies with the kind of big creator collaboration stuff as well. So let's do it. Let's kick off with big Iron Brago. Iron Brago the first, the January one. God, I wish I was kicking around the free to play at that point. Because this is a big champ. This was definitely a game changer for Raid. Yeah, and why is he a game changer? And it's probably what some of the champions miss, honestly, that have been released over recent months. He has got an absolutely terrific passive. Like, he's got a game-changing passive. And it generally now, you know, if you look at the old school champions compared to the cool new ones, normally the cool ones are like, damn, that passive could be used in a really interesting way. Now, this one's kind of more like a straightforward passive, but it's definitely a game changer. Yeah, so Iron Brago, for me, is still one of the best clan boss champions out there if you're not running an unkillable team. So he's bringing this increased defense to all allies by 10% of his defense. So basically, if you pump him up to like a 4 or 5k defense champion, he's just spreading out before the fight begins an extra 400 or 500 defense. Yeah, straight 10% goes out there. Means that you build less defense on the rest of your team, and therefore they stay alive, and he gains more damage with his defense. So it's like a win-win. Nothing's bad about this arrangement. So yeah, it just helps you hit that defense cap much, much faster. But that's not all he brings. Like, he's got great base stats, and he's also got a nuke of an A1. Absolute cannon of an A1. With a 20, goes up to 30% chance of decreasing duration of all buffs. It's actually not a bad one for like Doom Tower waves and stuff like that. I always forget he's even got this on his A1, honestly, but it's not a bad one. I mainly just look at it and think, damn, that is an absolute cannon of an A1 when he knocks people in the face with it. He's then got this A2, which, again, is pretty unique. I don't know if there's many champions, if any, that can keep increased defense up all of the time. So he's got a 3-turn cooldown, and he puts out increased defense for 3 turns. I'm probably wrong. There's probably going to be 18 comments in 2 seconds to say, oh my God, didn't you realize about this one? Look, if there is, I apologize. But increased defense for 3 turns, 3-turn cooldown is insanely good. It just means, so if you factor that in alongside his passive, you're going to have an extra 400-500 defense plus an extra 60% defense for the whole fight. Basically means that you're running like a 2,300 defense to get the capped defense that you need. Yeah, to get your kind of 4,200 cap, he gives it to you in his passive in A2. It's so strong, that combo. And he's got a stun chance on this as well, and it's an absolute cannon as well. It's a really, really, really strong A2. His A3 is good as well. It hits hard AoE, 3-turn cooldown, got a provoke on it. This is the type of champion we want for fusions or fragments. Game changers. This guy, January, comes in. For me, he's like a 9 out of 10 type of champion. Like, he's top draw, absolutely a game changer for your account. Defense in Doomtower Aura is not bad as well. But I'm Brago. We started the year strong this year. Second one up then is what is he? Sacred Order? Yeah, Astralon. So Astralon came in February. Ooh, we went from Iron Brago to Astralon. You're like, damn, Raid are serving it up this year. This dude is quality. And he was also, he might have been the first kind of wave of winged champions. I think he was. He looks the nuts. Like, this guy looks like he's been carved out of granite. He's like, yes, do you want to fight me? And he bought it all. He is really, really a great aesthetically looking champ. And he brings an awesome kit. So, pretty quick, high damage. Astralon brings good damage. He's probably in that realm. I find Astralon a bit difficult to build because it's like, what do I do with this guy? Do I want him to be my absolute nuke, my cannon, or do I need him for control? And those champions, if they're quite squishy, it's hard to build them because it's like, well, I can't really give you defensive stats as well as activate your abilities, as well as make you hit like a cannon. You have to start making quite hard decisions around these champs. But what's he got going on? I mean, his A3 is really where it's at. So he's got an A3, remove all buffs from targets under Veil. So this is kind of like an anti-Duchess, yeah? Then place Weaken on people that have got the Veil stuff removed. Then attacks all enemies. If that was it, you'd be like that. Woo! What a move. But you do need accuracy to do this stuff. The removing buffs bit, we need accuracy for that. So already you need accuracy, your damage comes down. Yeah, that's it. You're finding stats that you need, therefore your damage comes down. Also, it's like, what more? Also, if booked, 100% chance to stun all enemies. So 100% chance to stun is extremely rare in the game on an AoE. He does have a chance of weak hitting, so he could not stun, Force Affinity type guys. But other than that, it's a great A3. It absolutely nukes. Like, one of the harder hitting abilities in the game. It's like top 10% hits on an AoE. And it's got mechanics in it. But you just got that kind of, what do I do? Do I build him full damage or do I build him to make sure all of this stuff works? And for me, I think you've got to throw at least a couple of hundred accuracy into his build to allow some of this stuff to work. He's also got a decreased defense A1 and partners up with Countess Lix, who is also cool, by the way. Like, those two together is awesome. So this is quite a nice team up ability. He's got an A2 where attacks an enemy, ignores increased defense. Yeah, let's just counter Iron Brago. Ignores increased defense, strengthen, ally protection. They're the three big defensive buffs. Ignores those. Don't worry about that. Revives someone and places a shield on them if he kills someone with this hit, which he probably should do, really, if he's built well. And then places a shield as well. And he's got a bit of a passive. The passive's not as strong, I would guess, but fills his turn meter when an ally is hit. So he can try and cut in and get going. But honestly, if people are getting hit, he's probably going down as well. That's generally the way it goes. But overall, another extremely strong champion, like another 9 out of 10 type champ. 8, 9 out of 10. Loads of versatility, loads of options in terms of where you can play with him. So January, February were massive. We come into March then, and we get the Shadowkin starting to pop up. I think this might have been the first, maybe this was when the Shadowkin dropped in March. And we got Yoshi the Drunkard. And yeah, probably not what we were expecting from the first Shadowkin type of guys, honestly. But, he looks cool. He looks cool. He's got that theme going on, which I like. They always do well aesthetically anyway. But Yoshi the Drunkard, was he like the big revelation, the big 3 in a row? For me, no. I wasn't that fussed about trying to get this guy. He has seen since some like endgame, like Plat Arena teams, so he does get played. But I'm still not massively, a massive fan of the guy. He does get some bomber action. So, he likes to go against the bomber, but that's probably about it. What's going on? A1 stun, not bad, 40% chance. A2, decrease accuracy. That's where the Bommel thing comes in. But he places another debuff at the same time. But the decreased accuracy is needed for a lot of the high resistance type teams. I think he can hit 2 times at random. I think he can hit bombs with this as well. I'm pretty sure. So I don't know if this is good or not, honestly. I don't know if he definitely hits Bommel first. Maybe he does. Otherwise, he wouldn't have featured in those teams. But yeah, this was kind of like, okay, you know, where do we play with this? There wasn't really a spot before Bommel. And then he's got, this is where he was strong. So increase attack and increase accuracy for like an arena style team. It pumps 2 great stats, enables your debuffers or cleansers to get in there and clean stuff off against resistance based teams whilst boosting damage for your attack dealers as well. So this is why he was kind of considered a reasonable champion. And then he's got a bit of a turn meter feel. So if people fills his champion's turn meter by 4% each time an enemy receives a buff. So if you're playing against something like a Sifi team, she goes first, throws 3 buffs on her entire team. All of a sudden, he gets a bunch of turn meter, and the idea is maybe he can cut. Maybe he can cut in and get your team going. But yeah, for me, this guy is nowhere near the level of the last 2. Very niche play, but he does get some play. So for me, he was more like a 6 out of 10. Didn't mind if I got him or not, really. That's March. Let's get into April. April saw maybe the best legendary champion as an all-rounder in the game dropped. Underpriest Brogni. This is what it's all about when we're talking about fusions. This dude, when I was talking at the start, when I was talking about passives, this is the guy. This is the guy that kind of bought something. And it was like, at first, I think my first video, I was like, this guy looks really strong, but didn't really understand his kit well enough. And obviously, since then, it's like we've just seen more and more and more from this guy, including world record clan boss hits and all that type of stuff. So, awesome champion. Underpriest Brogni. Got a burn on his A1. Not bad. He's got an AoE ability, which can remove a buff from enemies. But if you don't play for the burn or that remove a buff, you just go, you forget accuracy completely. And I actually think that's the better way to use him because he needs a lot of stats to get going. If you've got to pump his accuracy as well, it's just one more stat that's growing, which means the other stuff isn't. So for me, I kind of I ignore that. But if you were using him in like Doom Tower waves and mainly Doom Tower fights, maybe you would take this accuracy build. But the second part of his kit is where it gets more interested. So 75% goes to 100 chance of removing a debuff from all allies, removing 1 random debuff from allies, and increases the shield value on all allies by 30%. So he's got a cleanse, and he increases value of shields. He's the only person in the whole game that does that. The whole game. And it's significant. And then his A3 actually puts out the shield in the first place. So he gives you a shield. The A2 then extends the shield. It's massively strong. It's so strong. Also a 3-turn block debuff and increase attack. And the shield cannot be removed. So you can't just cleanse it away. This is such a good combo. The A2 and A3 together. For me, it just makes him one of the most versatile champions in the game. But capable of doing obscene damage because of his passive. So if someone under the shield gets hit, he reflects some of that damage. That reflect can actually proc Giant Slayer hits. So you get tons of damage in like clan boss situations or general like Doom Tower boss, that type of stuff. He also gives a heal to anyone was under that shield. It's just so good. This passive, the A2, the A3, it's so good. Like this champion is where it is at. Gives you a good resistance aura as well for Doom Tower. Yeah, so April just brought one of the best champions in the game. So 3 out of 4 so far, and he's a 10 out of 10 for me. 3 out of 4 so far have been top draw. Let's get into May. May, we got the bug. Where is he? Is he in here? No. Are you in here, the bug man? I think you are, actually. Ruel. Ruel the Huntsman, the bug, the Dark Elf. I still don't really get that. Anyway, Ruel the Huntsman came as another Hex champion. It was like, finally, Hex is in the game. We can use Athea. Ruel is an absolute, like, crazy champion. And let me tell you now, I think hardest potential hitting champion in the game. I think maybe second. He's way above Trunda. Like, he is the hardest, if not second. But he has got a whole load of flaws, unfortunately, compared to a Trunda. So, firstly, Hex is very hit and miss in terms of you have to have someone else to set it up, and it needs to be on all enemies for it to be a real advantage. Yeah, so everybody that places Hex so far can have affinity issues, and there's no like commonality with Hex champions. So it's not like, oh, that's fine, but all of the spirit guys are Hex. So, you know, it's like we've got a Force one, we've got a Spirit one, we've got a Magic one, I think. Like, they're all different, and that doesn't help us when we're trying to get Hex into the game. Because you get weak hits, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, I'm not going to blow that guy up. And that's pretty much all Hex does. It lets me blow someone up. So if I can't do it, I must go back and use Seer again. So Ruel the Huntsman was the first Hex. Brings decreased defense if the target is under Hex. Brings decreased defense. Transfers a random debuff from this dude if they're under Hex. If this dude's taking debuffs, he's probably already dead. Like, he's squishy, very low base HP. He does hit like a cannon. But if he's got debuffs on him already, yikes, he's in trouble. He's in a world of trouble. We've got an A2, then 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies under Hex. Will ignore 25% of each target's defense if there's 4 or more enemies under Hex. This is where his damage goes through the roof. Double hits and ignoring defense. It is an absolute nuke, an absolute cannon. But he needs Hex out there first. And he's got his A3 then, places increased accuracy on all allies for 2 turns. Places a Hex on all enemies for 2 turns. Puts himself in a perfect veil. And fills this champion's turn meter by 50%. This should be on paper like his kit is awesome because he's doing the Hex himself. He's hiding himself. He's allowing the rest of your team that do debuffing or control to do their control better. Everything about this and his kit sounds great, but honestly, his turn meter fill by 50% is just not enough. Like, he needs to get back to his A2 quicker because 50% still means that he's way at the back of the pack. It almost needs to be like 80% or something crazy so that he just cycles back around to his A2 really quick. He's probably the best of the Hex champions, I would say. And he is strong. Like, he hits hard. We just need more champions that can keep him alive because at the moment, there's just not enough. Passive as well. So I talk about interesting passives. This guy decreases the speed of enemies under Hex by 5% and their resistance. So all of his kits working really nicely together. Also increases the damage enemies under Hex receive by 10%. Like, this dude is big. But we don't see him in any content because Hex just is too much of an enigma for now. But when Hex is, I guess, when there's more champions with better kits for Hex, he will be the nuker for it. He will be, I guess, again, is he trying to do too much? He needs accuracy for Hex. He needs tons of damage. He's hard to keep alive. Honestly, if they gave him another 5,000 health, I think he'd probably be in the meta. But at the moment, he's so hard to keep alive. So Ruel the Huntsmaster, potential-wise, is big, but right now, doesn't really get a look in. And I think, in terms of kit and stuff, I'd probably give him about a 7 out of 10 because he's too difficult to keep alive. So yeah, but on paper, he's awesome. He just doesn't quite cut it yet. So let's go on to the next one then. Let's go on to June's champion. And June, we got Hurndig. Alongside a load of epics, by the way, that were possible to get, which were quite strong as well. So Hurndig. Now, I didn't fuse Hurndig, and it's probably one of the biggest regrets in terms of a fusion I've got. I didn't fuse him because I was like, look, I've got a bazillion decreased defense champions. Yeah, I've got tons of them. AoE drop defense. The game went from having like a handful of good ones to having, 20 plus good ones. So I didn't bother getting him. And it's a massive regret. This guy is a package. So, so far, looking through, I mean, we're on to month 6 here. 4 out of 6, like, pretty much top draw. So what's he got going on then? I talk about this AoE drop defense. It also drops accuracy as well, which is big, 100% chance. The AoE drop defense, it hits like a cannon. Yeah, it's a massive hit. As well as giving you one of the strongest debuffs in the game, AoE. We love it. 3-turn cooldown. He's also got a full turn meter deplete on his A3. which makes him viable for most bosses, really, if they're not dragons. Will also attack all enemies if the first hit is a crit. So it's a AoE as well. This AoE, 100% chance of placing a weaken for 2 turns. So he's got drop defense, drop weaken, and weaken on his kit. Also places a burn if the turn meter is low. Like, damn, this is insane. Like, the A2 and A3 together. Why did I not do this guy? I've got no idea what made me think, nah, you don't need this guy. He's absolutely nuts. Maybe I was just having a bit of a chill period because it can get a bit intense doing fusion after fusion. We've then got a passive as well. Fills his turn meter by 10% each time they're hit. Occurs once a turn. Or once per hit, sorry. Also fills his turn meter by 20% when an ally dies. So it's like, if damage is coming in, he's got a good chance of getting back into the game. And you know what? Talking about him versus Ruel, look at the difference here. He also hits like a cannon. Not as hard as Ruel, but good defense, good HP, and still got the damage. So he's much easier to keep alive. And then that's when this passive becomes really useful. And then he's got this A1, which I'm coming back to it because it's actually one of his strongest parts of his kit, even though the rest of his kit is nutty. Attacks an enemy, gets an extra turn, and decreases the cooldown of his A3 by 2 turns if he kills someone. And he often does. Yeah, he often does. So he's often used in an arena. Like if Warlord locks you out, he's often used as this kind of like A1, come in, kill someone, and then get back to getting his kit back really quick. Whereas Warlord's normally annoying because he just completely locks out your team. They don't do anything for an hour. This dude is kind of like a pretty cool anti-Warlord. So look, he's also very cool actually, by the way, in Dark Fae. In terms of trying to get an auto team going, this is one of the best champions in the game to do that. So Hurndig, awesome. Another like probably a 9 out of 10 type champion. Maybe it's a 10. I don't know. 9 out of 10 probably. 6 months in, 4 out of 6. Awesome. And July saw a Night Rev. So Versulf the Grim. Awesome clan boss champion is what I would say. I don't think he plays that much outside of clan boss. But still, like for the average account, this is more like a progression through clan boss type champion. Not progression, like it can be in endgame teams, but if you don't have the unkillables going yet, then he is going to bring you a ton. Brings you a bit of a shield A1. His A1's not that great. AoE A2 throwing out places an extra hit on enemies under stun, freeze, true fear, provoke, this is new actually, petrification. Each hit has a chance of placing leech. Yeah, so it boosts to 100% anyway. So you just 100% place a leech, but you get a double hit if one of these debuffs is out there. And the double hit becomes the hardest hitting HP-based champion in the game. Higher than Magnar. Yeah, higher than Magnar, higher than Sir Nick. The double hit makes him hit like an absolute nuke. Yeah, but also in like clan boss situation on Doomtail, whatever, you've got an AoE leech going on. And then on his A3, books to 3 turns, places increased defense and ally protection. Ally protection, straight up, best buff in the game for clan boss. Yeah, and that's why he really becomes a clan boss champion for me. He brings you a heal in the leech, increased defense so that your defense cap can come down, and ally protection keeps you alive for a ton of time. So this dude in clan boss, awesome. And he's got a chance to get provoked as well when hit on his passive. It's an okay passive, nothing more than that. Good base stats. A good champion, like a 7 out of 10 type champ, but not a crazy one. Okay, let's move on to August. Actually, another Night Rev. Mother Cybele. I didn't fuse her. I thought she was one of the worst fusion champions we've ever had. I actually recently got her from a shard. She had no place in the game. Now she kind of has a place in the game with Hydra. Kinda. I still feel like she's fairly weak, but damn, she's quick. And she's got insane survivability in her base stats. Very high defense, very high HP. So she's easy to keep alive. Or easier. She brings an AoE drop speed on her A1. It's nice, actually. And a bit of a turn meter fill on her A1. And it hits reasonably hard, actually, this AoE. It's not a crazy nuke, but it hits pretty hard. Revive on death and increased defense on her A2. 3-turn cooldown. It's actually not bad. And then she's got this HP swap with an ally. It's very convoluted. It's very... It's too weird, honestly. It's too weird. Situationally, it's awesome, but... So if this champion's HP is equal to or higher than the target's after the swap, turn meter fill, and increased speed on the champion that she steals it from, and a block damage. So all of this is kind of cool. And then if it's not, so if it's not equal or higher to, it goes in reverse basically. It's just too weird. It's too weird. It's very almost impossible to get some sort of auto synergy going with this. So, you know, it's situational, can be brilliant and save the day, but it means you're fully manual in whatever you're doing. She's also got this fully heals the ally with the lowest HP whenever this champion is killed, which is actually very cool. Heals all allies by 20% and fills their turn meters by 15% whenever this champion is revived. So against someone like Bommel, potentially, I guess. I don't know if people are using her on Bommel or not, but this revive on death, I guess, is a mechanic that you could use as long as you time the bombs properly. And she's healing people and she's kind of boosting turn meter. It's just, she's a very hard champion to use, I think. So very situational, you know, arena defense or go second teams. She can get some use, but I still don't think she's great for the game. Or I still don't find like there's a great place for her to play. But I guess Hydra's now becoming her spot. So Mother Cybele for me, still like a, you know, maybe a 6 out of 10 type of champion. But maybe in Hydra is going to be her kind of thing. So coming on to September then, this is where my free-to-play started to pick up champions, which is interesting because it gives me a feel for, well, who was I hard pushing for at the time? This is the first one I got on the free-to-play, Roric Wormbane. And to give you some context, he is not 6-starred. He's not a bad champion. He's not a good champion either. He's an average champion. Tatura, who I just picked up, already 6-starred, already done masteries. Roric is level 50, and he popped up in September. Yeah, that gives you some context. So what's going on with this guy, the Beast, the dog? Anyway, what's going on with Roric? He's got a stun A1. It's actually a pretty cool control stun. 40% chance to stun each hit. I haven't booked my Roric on my free-to-play. This still lands a reasonable amount of the time. The A2 is kind of his saving grace in terms of being a champion, really. If he didn't have this A2, damn, he'd probably be the worst legendary in the game. But at least he brings, on a 3-turn cooldown, a really strong chance to decrease turn meter and place stuns on all enemies. And as I said earlier, an AoE stun is pretty rare to get. So that's what I'm using Roric for. He did help me progress through Spider until I got a better team. And he helps with my Barbarian Faction War team. That's basically it. If I really need control for Doom Tower, maybe I would get him going for that. But yeah, this AoE stun is where he kind of gets a bit of saving grace. He's got an ignore defense A3, ignores 50%. He just doesn't hit hard enough. That's his problem. He doesn't hit hard enough. Even this, which is ignoring defense, still doesn't hit hard enough. We'll always use this skill instead of a default when counter-attacking. So if you put him in something like retaliation gear, or you run him alongside, you know, some of the counter-attack champions, then this is actually pretty cool, but it still doesn't hit hard enough for this to be crazy. If it hit hard, then maybe he would get a lot more use, honestly. This is one of his best things. Again, an interesting passive, immune to being stunned himself, and deals more damage to bosses and receives a bit less damage from them. He's a bit squishy, which is why he needs that. But for me, speed in all battles is good, but he's one of the weaker fusions for the year. Okay, into October then, and we got ourselves a Bannerlord, Sigmund the High Shield. Crazy base stats again, like very high defense, very high HP, loads of survivability, and he's kind of got this glowy glowness going on with his shield. I mean, it looks like he probably needs to hang up the sword. Yeah, get to more like a managerial role, Sigmund. What we got going on? This guy, for me, one of the weaker ones, really. 50% chance of removing a buff. It's okay. A double hit A2 on an AoE. It's nice. Each hit, chance of placing provoked. You pretty much are guaranteed provokes out of this. Yeah, you're guaranteed to land provokes, which is nice. So he's just going to be a tank. Yeah, I don't know how this dude is the tank. I guess his armor must be really, really strong. Places a shield on all allies for 2 turns equal to 30% of his health. This is actually a nice A3. Places strengthen on all allies as well. So you can build him with high health. You can get good shields going out there and strengthen. Whenever this champion's attacked, 20% chance of reducing all buffs on the attacker. Whatever. It's okay. And then Doom Tower defense in all battles. He's a tank with a good A2. That's it for me. Like, I don't know, maybe the A3 is actually pretty decent. Yeah, I guess he's just a support defensive unit with not much damage. He will help you get through content if you're struggling to get through content. That's pretty much where he stands. But for me, one of the weaker ones of the year. And we're in this kind of period where we went, Versulf, not bad. Mother Cybele, pretty bad. Roric, pretty bad. Sigmund, plain average. You got like 4 in a row now where it's like, Raid, where are the Bragos? Where's the Brognis gone? Yeah, we had a real lull in quality coming through. And then we hit November and we got this delight. We were told Void Legendary Champion. Woo! Who doesn't want a Void Legendary on their ranks? And we got Vlad. Now, we then realized that he was, for a Void Legendary, quite a disappointment. He's a good champion in fairness. But for a Void Legendary, wasn't enough for me. Decreased targets max HP on an A1. It's okay. AoE, hard-hitting, leech ability. We like it. Also, if booked, 100% chance of stealing turn meter from allies from certain factions. I like that as well, actually. That's a cool ability. If he also, like, if it doesn't steal it, then he reduces turn meter. So for faction wars, this guy does a ton of work against like the Valk waves. But 3-turn cooldown, you kind of have to book him to get him going, to get this back quick enough for it to be really relevant, to stop those Valks throwing out the shields and stuff like that. He's got his A2, which actually, again, for faction wars, just like picking on someone and saying, you cannot use your abilities. Block active steals, also puts decreased defense on someone. It's not bad as well. So he's got his passive, revive on death on this champion for 2 turns if he kills someone. Also, fully heals and gains turn meter if he kills someone. So you kind of need to build him with damage to get this passive kicking in. He only heals though if he's got this Constantine on the same team. I tell you what, if they remove that line, because Constantine's a Void Legendary, like, and he's not that great anyway. Like, just let Vlad have that. Just let him have it. He's a Void Legendary. He's still missing some stuff. Like, his kit is not strong enough for a Void Legendary champion. And he kind of carried on the theme of fusions and fragments events have gone down for the year. They started incredibly strong. The first, 4 out of the first 6 were insane. And now you've got 5 out of the last 5, which were disappointing. Yeah. And then we come into the last champion of the year, which is Tatura. And Tatura, high elf, kind of saved the year, came back to where we were in terms of quality. And this is a real quality champion, defense-based, hard-hitting AoE ability on the A3, which also puts perfect veil on your whole team. Great for Hydra, but also great for any content, honestly. And a big shield as well. This is great. Good buffs on the A2. Honestly, I would have loved to have just seen a little sneaky turn meter fill or something in here, but he's already strong. Block debuffs. We love that on a 2-turn cooldown. On a 2-turn. And we love increased defense as well. So both of his A2 and A3 are awesome. His A1's cool as well in terms of just a decrease. It's not amazing. I don't want to over-talk it. Decrease accuracy is okay in places. And then a nice passive with a bit of interest to it. So Tatura came in to kind of save the year as the 12th one. And, you know, it's kind of got us in a place where probably 6 for 6. 6 great champions, 6 probably live in vaults. And I don't know, maybe that's where it should be. Maybe it should be pretty balanced along those ways. All of them have got to play somewhere to play in the game, I guess. Some of them are more for progressive accounts. Some of them are more for endgame type of stuff. So I guess it makes sense. There's a bit of balance there. But, you know, when you compare this guy or Brogni to Mother Cybele, you're like, come on. You know, where the hell am I going to play that champion compared to these? So anyway, Tatura kind of finished the year really well. So we're going to talk about 2 more. I know this video's gone on longer than I thought it would actually, but 2 more champions that dropped this year, which were a different tact from Plarium. And that was big content creators being brought into the game to advertise Raid. Yeah, and it was like Raid reaching out to a new player base. And I think the first time it happened with Ninja, and I don't know what happened with the face, but the rest of the champ looks cool. And I think it was a cool idea. Now, we got to the point where nobody knew can pull Ninja from a shard or obtain Ninja in any way. I don't know if I like that. Like, Ninja's too good to just be sitting on accounts from whatever it was, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I feel like. He's so good. He's such a good introduction. And it was a free champion. Yes, every single account got Ninja. I hope, and maybe it's something in the contract, they're not allowed to push these champions elsewhere anymore. But I hope they do something, maybe 6 months down the line, where it's like, for this period of time, they reopen it up to players that don't have him, because it's such a shame that he sits there now as an unpullable champion. It's so good. Decreased defense A1, triple hit burn with a ton of damage against bosses because it instantly activates here on the A3, plus chances to land your War Master. And he brings an AoE freeze against normal mobs, but just a hard hit against bosses, which recycles back down to Haliburn again. And he's got a cool passive, which only really works against long fights, like clan boss type fights, but just scales his damage up through the roof. He hits like a cannon. He's got good control, good damage, great boss killer. He's a brilliant champion, and I feel sorry for people now that can't actually get him. I just noticed in the background here, is this normal? The kind of stuck to the posts by the head and stuff. Anyway, so we got Ninja, and then more recently we've just got Alexander or Simple as this kind of high elf champion. And, if you consider all the ones I've been talking about all year, have they all got a cool passive? I feel like all of them have got a cool passive pretty much. Alexander the Sharpshooter, hard hitting A2 with a drop defense on it, a bit like Hurndig. Hard hitting A3 with a kind of silly part to it around just a couple of factions. We've got 14 factions in the game. Only affects 2. It's not enough. And then he's got a freeze chance, which is actually a strong chance to freeze on an A1. But he's so plain. Like, yeah, he hits hard on his A2. He needs something here, some sort of cool passive to wake him up as a champion. And to, new people coming into the game, it's like, one of the cool things about Raid is it's not just a standard kind of gotcha style collector game. All of the champions, whatever it's square pegs, square holes type of thing. You can be really versatile with how you use champions. You can be really versatile with the gear sets you put on them, the type of builds that you do. This guy doesn't give you any of that versatility. He's got no passive to make him interesting. So he's just a hard-hitting, defense-down champion, which might end up being a bit of a waste for your books. So there you go, guys. That's kind of like the year in terms of legendary champions that were available to us. And then just to finish, I've gone through and counted up how many books we needed for each of these legendaries if we wanted to book them out. Basically, we've got here, it goes like this: 16, 13, 14, 12, 11, 15, 11, 12, 12, 12, 14, 9. So actually, it feels like over the kind of course of the year, the average has come down on these fragment or fusion champions in terms of books required. It's still high considering there's no easy way to obtain books unless you start to get a bit of luck on clan boss and that type of thing. But there you go, guys. That is 2021 fusion and fragment champions summed up. Have yourself a great 2022. I will catch you later.